and welcome to a special edition of GC 360, the SGA Presidential Candidate Debate. I'm Stephen Walters. In the light of the upcoming election on Wednesday, we are holding a live televised debate between the two candidates for President of the Student Government Association. Joining us is incumbent SGA President Mike Muller and the challenger, President Pro Tempore Amelia Lord. Here are the ground rules for the debate. Candidates will have 1 minute to offer opening statements. I will ask questions and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond and 1 minute each for a rebuttal or follow-up. Later in the debate, I'll offer each candidate the opportunity to pose a question to the other candidate. We also want to know what you, our audience, would like the candidates to address. Tweet us your questions at GC360 or post them on our Facebook page, facebook.com/GC360. Let's get started. Mike, you have the floor for the opening statement, and you have 1 minute.
Great, thank you so much, Stephen. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, Stephen, and GC360 for having me today. It's such a pleasure to talk about the issues that really affect Georgia College, our student body, and our campus, as well as the many great things that our campus offers for Georgia College students. I decided to run again after my current term because I really believe there are so many things that we can continue to do to improve our campus life. President Dorman's mission is making the university preeminent, and as he said in his State of the University address, that starts with faculty and staff, students, as well as the broader administration. And I think we continue to aim as students to make our university preeminent. I'm running on with my campaign partner, Mary Catherine Rogers, the idea of improving our academic climate, our campus culture, and our communication. Many efforts that I've already started to improve upon are a 24-hour student study space, midterm grade and student feedback, and bringing GC360 and our media to our Senate sessions and widening and opening up Georgia College Student Government Association for our students to be more transparent. We've done a lot of stuff already, and I know there's just many things we can continue to improve upon and work harder to achieve too. I love serving this university. I came here because it's a small school where you can easily work with your faculty and staff, your fellow students, as well as the administration, and I've just been proven time and time again that I'm correct, that our university is for the students, and it's been fantastic.
Thank you, Mike. Amelia, it's time for your opening statement.
Hello, my name is Amelia Lord. I'm your current President Pro Tempore for the Student Government Association, and I am running to be president. I ran my first student government campaign back when I was in 3rd grade. I was only 9, but I knew that I wanted to serve my student body and help advocate for whatever their needs were. So within the last 2 years, I have definitely seen room for improvement as I have served as a senator and now as President Pro Tempore. I want to provide actionable solutions for students. This includes more accessibility to education, also being able to cultivate an environment for inclusive learning and inclusive culture. This reaches out to early college as well as all of our small organizations on campus, providing resources to smaller organizations that are unique to Georgia College, such as BRAVE, or even to our improv team, the Armed Farces. Thank you for having me here, and I look forward to elaborating on the rest of my platform.
All right, so let's get the questioning started with Mike. Mike, what do you think is the biggest issue on campus, and how do you plan to fix that issue?
Okay, I don't know. I think depending on who you ask, that issue will change. A lot of us will just immediately say parking, but I think the biggest issue our student body faces is a lack of communication, and that's in a number of different areas. That's internal communication between our student organizations, that's communication of campus resources, and that's just communication between the administration and the student body. And I've been aiming and working to improve that during my current administration. With the release of the SGA newsletter/memo, that we released last month for the first time, and we're going to continue releasing every month. That's a memo to student organization presidents of how much money we've allocated to different organizations that month, resolutions we've written, and upcoming events, all released to the student organization's presidents, so they're kind of aware of what's going on. Similar to a front page, but more SGA focused. I've also, to help increase transparency and awareness, I've set up many meetings with administration. with a broad student coalition so that we can hit on many different topics to better communicate the student needs and what's going on the student behalf. That's meetings with the provost, who's the chief academic affairs officer at Georgia College, the head honcho when it comes to academic affairs, Provost Brown. We have monthly meetings, breakfasts and lunches with her. It's the first time we've ever been doing that. I helped establish with the Office of Inclusive Excellence under Dr. Womack a PCOD meeting, which stands for President's Commission on Diversity, and then we have one for students as well as for faculty and staff. And that helps us talk about diversity issues. To bridge the gap between early college and SGA, I've helped and delegated my staff, and Amelia Lord has definitely helped out with that, bridging the gap between early college and SGA by having a much more solid coalition there. So I've been continuing to try to bridge that gap as much as I can, and that's going to continue to be a prime factor in my tenure as SGA president.
Amelia, same question to you. What's the biggest issue on campus and how are you going to fix it?
Yeah, I would have to, first of all, agree with Mike. Communication is a large problem on our campus. We are only a campus of 7,000 students, and so it shouldn't be that hard to reach everyone who's in need. That includes students who are financially disadvantaged. Our student government has a philanthropy, the Student Emergency Fund. When I was a freshman, I actually raised twice as much as we've raised all this semester within 3 days. And so that's definitely something that we can put at the forefront of student government because our mission is to help students and provide for our students. And then also with diversity, my opponent did mention the early college, as I had mentioned earlier. With early college, yes, we have reached out to their student government, but we can do more. They actually, one of the biggest complaints that you will get from early college students, and I've talked to an early college teacher, is going to be that they don't feel prepared for their SATs. So that is also a lack of communication within our campus because those high school students, those middle school students are Georgia College students. And finally, just communication to our RSOs, making sure that they know how they can receive funding. I actually rewrote step-by-step our bill allocation process this year in order to make sure that when an RSO or a student club is reaching out to their senator trying to get money, they know exactly the process. I want to make sure that there is always going to be transparency, so I want to write that into the laws that outlive our 4 years here.
Mike, would you like to rebuttal or add anything?
No, I think that was absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I mean, we both agree that communication is a primary part of what makes a Georgia College student a Georgia College student. I mean, without it, we wouldn't know the events to go to. We wouldn't know, what resources we have on campus. I think, a prime thing we always are wondering is, what is there for students? And so one of my missions has been to create, town halls for students. We had our first SGA town hall in a very long time last semester. I'm aiming to have another one with the Chief of Police, Don Chalice, this upcoming semester, and we're scheduling that right now. And so these kind of issues are really important for students to understand what's going on and what resources they can provide. And when I say communication of resources, I mean things like Brave training, things like the Women's Center, and our Rave Guardian app, which helps you feel safe when you're walking home, or any of our emergency services. And so that's really what I want to continue to focus on is showing students what resources we have, what things they can go do. So, yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Amelia, anything else?
Yes. So off of Brave training, because that is something that I think should be more central to our campus. We do have a very safe campus, but we should do more. One of the things that I would like to do is write into our bylaws that each organization must have a Brave trained chair in their organization on their executive board. Also, to continue to talk about transparency, within the past semester, I have passed a resolution so that each executive officer must create a strategic plan. That helps our student government work under a unified vision. I would like to take that a step further, where we can have a unified vision for all branches of student government, where every student will be able to log into our student government website and see exactly where their student fees, their student dollars are going, and what every senator is being able to produce with that.
Thank you, guys. And we'll go to our next question. In reference to the town hall last semester, there was a student there who talked about the lack of accessibility on campus. I know that's been something that's been talked about over the years. How are you going to begin to take those steps to a more accessible campus? We'll start with you, Amelia.
Yes. So first of all, sitting on the Parking and Transportation Committee this year with my opponent, Mike, we have always made it a central point to know where our ADA parking spaces, American Disability Act parking spaces are, as well as always advocating for more. It was actually brought up in our last meeting that we well exceed the minimum, but that is something that we always want to take a step forward and have more, because we are a very walkable campus and not every student can just walk on campus. And improving our facilities, I know that my opponent has brought up in the past that having, if you've ever used the Mac store to the front, the disabilities button doesn't always work. Just making sure that we have routine checks for everything. And with a step further than that, disabilities goes further with being financially disabled. And so I would also like to provide an organization called Swipe Out Hunger. Kendall Lewis, who's an honors student, actually brought this to me because she would like to grow it. It is an organization where any unused Mac swipes will be donated to students who are financially disabled. And so the reason why this is also a student government project is because it needs to be taken further than just a regular organization. This needs to be something that is second nature to Georgia College students, being able to donate things that they're unable to use. Thank you.
Mike, your thoughts on accessibility?
Yeah, so I remember that exactly what you're talking about. That was one of the best things that came out of the town hall, I think. And so actually after that came to me, I met with the students one-on-one, and I talked about the issues they were facing. And a lot of it was just communication and not being able to see, not being able to know who to reach out to. And so I brought those problems that student solicited to President Dorman, as well as Vice President Harshbarger of Student Affairs. That's the guy who's in charge of everything that's not exactly academic related that students are involved in. And so I was like, hey, this is a big problem. Our students don't feel like they know who to talk to, but they also have a lot of problems trying to figure out where to go. So I did that. And they said, oh my God, this is crazy. And so then I brought it to the Director of Disability Services, and we sat down and we actually walked around campus to try to see what we envisioned a better and more accessible campus to look like. And then we said, this is what we're going to start to work on. We're going to start to work on sending more of those pictures of cars that are parking in ADA spots, because we have good ADA parking. It's just that the cars that shouldn't be in there are parking there. So we're going to start doing that more often. We're also going to start working, hopefully over the summer, on a 3D map for disabled students, so they can see, physically disabled students, so they can see where they should and shouldn't be walking in a more detailed manner. And that's communication. And so that's the kind of thing that I'm working on. I find actionables and I start to work on them. And we're going to do that over the summer, hopefully, and try to figure out a 3D map. And right now, if you look at the map, it's a map of Georgia College with blue lines in certain areas that mark things. And that's just not good for students. There's no way to read that correctly. And then we're also going to start to work on different issue areas and compile those better, so we can start putting signage out, in the Centennial Center, stuff like that, so students know where to go if they are physically disabled, where the elevators are and stuff like that. So things are all I'm trying to work on. Yeah.
Amelia, anything else to add?
Yes, I completely agree. I know that being such a walkable campus, we do need to make sure that we're sensitive to everyone and whatever challenges they face. Although one thing I'd like to bring up is that we do have some blind students, and that a 3D map would not help them. Not necessarily saying that we shouldn't do it, but that we should also find other ways to reach out to all students. Yeah.
Mike, anything else?
Yeah. So if a blind student came up to me and had had that problem that the 3D map wouldn't work, we should sit down there, meet with them, and find actionable solutions. And so we need to start reaching out to those students, especially with regard to that. But I the way I act as president is that I don't know everything. I really don't always know the issues every student faces, but I always will listen and find a way that we can solve their problem. And that's why I love being SGA president, because I love meeting challenges, facing them, and then solving the problem. And so we don't need to just say, okay, we need to find the solution for this. We need to say, okay, this is the problem. Let's meet with everyone we have to find that solution. And you'll be so surprised when you meet with administrators. You say, I have a problem. They're like, oh yeah, I know about that problem. We're working on it. And that's just what's great about Georgia College.
All right, you guys, we'll go to the next question. I know you guys talked about transparency and communication a lot so far, but give me a little more of a template of what that looks like. Mike, we'll start with you.
Could you define that question better? I'm sorry.
Yes, so with communication and, for example, the State of the Union was not emailed out to students this year, from our knowledge. What ways are you looking? I know you already said you started with the town hall, but what are some other things that you're looking to do as far as communication?
So I actually, if I'm being honest, I didn't know what the state of the state of the university until that week, and so I was kind of caught off guard too. So I was really surprised about that, and so I think encouraging the use of front page on a university calendar is really important. I've also been using the SGA memo, the town halls, and reaching out to students. Mary Catherine and I, the vice presidential candidate I'm running with, have come up with the idea of office hours, or coffee hours, that we would sit in Blackbird and we'll talk to students right where they are. We're going to meet you where you're at. And so we're going to start doing that because we find that we shouldn't just try to advertise the SGA offices. It's kind of in the basement of Magnolia, so we're going to start going to where students are, and we can get out our offices for an hour or two, which is going to be a lot of fun. The second thing is we're getting a new R25 system, something I have been advocating for some time. So instead of R25, we'll have a new university calendar, and that calendar I'm pushing for will communicate well with OrgSync, our organizational system. And so once you put in an event request on a WorkSync, you can then it will then automatically update into the university calendar, hopefully with our new system. And so that will really widen destroy the barrier to transparency and communication of campus events and stuff like that and resources. And I think that'll be very helpful. It'll make events more safe because everyone will know what events are happening wherever, and that's including the administration. And that will really, I think, prove benefit to our university. I think it also includes bringing our administration that focuses on select issues, like our Women's Center, to our students more directly. And that's, I think, in town halls is the best way to do that, as well as putting them in the SGA memo, saying, hey, these resources are available, don't forget. We also want to put on the Bobcat card the suicide hotline, as well as a hotline to our counseling services, so that students are aware of what number they need to call, as well as our public safety number, so they're always aware of the numbers and the resources available to them.
Amelia, what about you for communication?
Communication. Okay, so I completely agree that we should be encouraging office hours. I personally have 10 plus office hours every single week, where sometimes I'm the only person in the office when a student needs help. And so because our centers are already required to have an office hour every week where they're doing an office task, I would like to bring that in-house, where we open up our staff office, because it does have a window, just like a reception desk, where students would be able to copy and print within that staff office, and we will always have a senator on duty there who can answer any questions, and those hours will be posted publicly, as well as continuing, as I said before, having that strategic plan, having students be able to understand where to find information and how that affects them, and easy, open line of communication where we can encourage students to fill out OrgSync forms with complaints or anything like that. Also, with transparency, I really think a huge problem on our campus is that students don't necessarily know where the student government office is located. It is actually mentioned briefly on the tours. I would like to have the ability to add into the Week of Welcome packet that all freshmen get, with contact information for all of the exec members, how to get involved in student government, what student government can provide for you, because right now we do provide free printing and free scantrons, and that's something that largely people don't know. As I've been talking to organizations this week and I ask who knows where the student government office is, sometimes I get probably 50%, but sometimes it's only one or two hands that go up. And so I'd really, really like to improve that.
Yeah, I'm sure if students didn't know about free scantrons, they'd get all over those. So, Mike, anything else to add?
No, yeah.
Amelia?
Just the final thing is that along with presenting all of that information in the Week of Welcome packet, I would really like to include how to start your own RSO and exactly what path you want to take to join an RSO. Recently this year, over the summer, our Campus Life office posted a list that was kind of like a map. Are you interested in this? And then if you're interested in this, then you can go to this organization, and kind of directed students to where they wanted to go if they were interested in things. And I would like to expand that to maybe have something interactive online.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. And Amelia, the Student Emergency Fund that you were talking about, as part of your campaign outline, how do you plan to raise more money? I know you talked that you
Yes.
raised all that money in 3 months. How are
It
you
was
going
3
to
days.
do that? 3 days, excuse me.
Yeah, of course.
How are you going to raise more money for that scholarship, and how do students qualify to receive this fund?
Yes, okay, so first of all, Student Emergency Fund is not something that I'm creating. It has been here for a long time. It is a central piece of student government that has been largely ignored recently. And so one thing that I'd like to do with my experience with volunteering with the American Cancer Society, I would like to have the best way to describe it is a relay style camp out, either on West Campus or on Front Campus. I'd obviously have to work with facilities, but we do have an area of West Campus that we do host a relay every year. It would be as simple as getting organizations to sign up, have their own tent, have their own table, and they would be able to raise money for their philanthropy as well. So the Student Emergency Fund is a fund that provides for any student. It is anonymous. So if you have gone through all of your options through scholarships, through financial aid, and you're still not quite cutting it, whether that's just a month of rent or you're behind on some bills, maybe you've had an unexpected tragedy in your family, or you have a past of financial instability within your family, we are able to provide for that. So that is writing a check to them as long as they qualify and that they are responsible.
Mike, same question. How do you plan to maybe raise money for that scholarship? I know it's not necessarily in.
Yeah. So the Student Emergency Fund is a prime part of our Senate, our legislative body, and that's a committee normally as an ad hoc. And so I think a primary focus of my campaign and working with Mary Catherine is having someone that's dedicated to working and developing our student senators. And so with Mary Catherine, I'm going to help encourage her and encourage our Senate body in general, and as well as our other branches of student government, to really focus on the Student Emergency Fund. But the primary duty of the president is working with our administration to improve campus and student life in that area. The president honestly does not have time to start going out and start fundraising initiatives, nearly as much so as I think the vice president and our student senators are tasked to do. The vice president can help encourage our committee of 5 that manages the Student Emergency Fund to really develop that much stronger. And that's why I really chose a very strong vice presidential candidate as my running mate, because I know she can do it. I think also we can start partnering more with other administrative officials, using our work with the alumni, which is one job of the president, to start reaching out to see if we can get some more donations to that foundation account. And that is a primary job of the president, is starting to reach out externally there. And so I would encourage our vice president, whoever that may be, next year to encourage fundraising in that regard. But as president, I would work with our alumni and our many other offices to help encourage donations to that account.
Amelia, anything else to add?
Yes, of course. I actually think that it's largely ignorant to say that the president does not have any power to help fundraise for something that's so central, as you said, to our student government mission. Also, I will not be a president who is mostly focused on the administration. It's in the, I believe, 5th or 6th line of the bylaws. It states that the president's one of the president's duties is to appoint other students to administration committees, and so I will not, I do not want to largely burden myself with that. I would like to delegate that out to other students who are dedicated and who will be able to report back to me. I would really like to focus my administration and my special projects fund on being able to reach each one of our 7,000 students and provide for them in a way that's effective and in a way that will help them thrive.
Mike, your rebuttal?
Right. Yeah, so I don't think it's ignorant at all. If you can't be an SGA president if you don't have your primary focus on the administration, your job as president, if you are elected, will be to work with the administration on every single issue. They ask you to serve on many university committees, from meet with the president to the vice president of student affairs search committee to the dean of arts and sciences search committee to every other committee in between. And they also actually ask you to appoint other student members. But as president, you are the external member that works with the administration. You work on University Senate, in SAPSI, and sometimes we're PIPSI, in many different areas. And if your primary goal isn't to be an administrative official, then you can't do your job as president correctly. Moreover, when I attended the SAC meeting, which is a student advisory council for the Board of Regents, and the Board of Regents are above the president, above the president of all universities. They're number one. And so when you attend that, they say, the faculty that work with you, you are the administration now. And so you are an administrator. And that's how faculty and staff view you. So if you're not willing to take that step and work with the administration, then that's your job.
Thank you, guys, and we'll move on to our next question. As far as the student body is concerned, we're not very diverse. How are you going to promote diversity and inclusivity on our campus? And Mike, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I've already begun doing that through a couple of different areas. So one is my service with the administration on PCAW, which is what I mentioned earlier, the President's Commission on Diversity. That's all administrative officials. They asked me personally to be on that because I'm the SGA president. So I'm working with them on monthly meetings as well as on a subcommittee there as well as the Student President Commission on Diversity, which meets every semester. I started with Dr. Womack, and that's to discuss issues of importance with regard to diversity and student inclusion and how they feel. And so I've been working there to help foster that community and that communication. I also worked with early college and starting to bring them more into the fold. And we did that through working with their student council, but also through reaching out to Dr. Salad, who's in charge of early college, and getting them back integrated into our time stock because they, for some reason, a long time ago, were disbarred from attending. And so we said, well, that's not how you include those students. Let's bring them back so maybe they'll attend here afterwards and feel like they're part of our home. Also, on my service on the Library Student Advisory Committee, which works with administration, we had a lot of reports of students not wanting early college students in there, which I thought was outrageous. They just said they didn't like how they acted. And I thought it was just a little petty, honestly. And so we worked with Dr. Salad to help foster some communication between those two issues. So what it is, it's to encourage diversity. It's on our campus. It's opening forums and communication with our administration and our students to see what's wrong, but also by making our community that isn't yet an actual Georgia College student feel like they're part of Georgia College, as well as bringing City Millersville in.
Awesome. Amelia, what would you do for diversity on campus?
Thank you. First, I would just like to dispel something. Being student government president is exactly what is stated, student government president. I would not consider myself a part of the administration. I would always consider myself a student first. So moving on into diversity, one of the first things I would like to do is to use part of my special projects budget to ensure that Diversity Week continues to happen. Right now it's being planned, and it's something that's really great. The Office of Inclusive Excellence, the Cultural Center, and the Diversity and Inclusion Committee have all worked on that, as well as the before mentioned diversity committees. I'd want to make sure that that's always a part of our student fabric. What we're working on with our student culture is to make sure that we are inclusive. You can't say diversity without saying inclusion. And so yes, that does go back to early college. And as I had stated before, I would really like to reach out to every single student in early college, making sure that they feel as though they are a valued student on this campus, and that goes to their education, with making sure that we have SAT and ACT prep for them, as well as reaching out further to other high school students, and that would be through the Glimpse Outreach Program. It's something that, as I stated, is being worked on with the Office of Inclusive Excellence, the Cultural Center, and the Diversity and Inclusion Committee. But I would need to make sure that that is a staple of Georgia College. That would be the Glimpse program, where students, underrepresented students, are invited to our campus for a day or a weekend. And the outreach part of that would be to make sure that we are meeting them on their own ground. So sending trained students, such as ambassadors or peer diversity educators, to these schools and making sure that they understand the resources that are here for them at Georgia College and encouraging underrepresented students to come onto our campus.
Mike, your rebuttal or anything to add?
Yeah, so an administrative official like the VP of Student Affairs, like the Dean of Students, all vouch for students consistently. That's what they do. And their job is to help encourage students, to teach students, and to mold students into better people, just like our faculty do in an educational way, in an academic way. So when I say administration, I'm saying that I work on university committees. I work with President Dorman, with Vice President Harshbarger, with all of the vice presidents and the deans to help vouch for student opinions. And so that's the job of the SGA president. It's just like our President of the United States. His job is to work to outreach into different foreign nations and stuff like that. It's an external position, one that is vouching for students in many different areas, one that reads our strategic plans, one that understands all of these different measures. And so if you don't treat your job as president like that, then you're not going to be able to vouch for these issues on diversity, because you won't have the relationship with Dr. Womack. You won't have relationships with the Center of Inclusive Excellence or anything like that. Thank you.
Amelia?
I would first of all like to say that I have already worked with Dr. Womack and also other members of administration. I would never say that our administration isn't advocating for students. Obviously, everyone here on Georgia College does advocate for students, and that's one of the reasons why I love Georgia College, is because every single member of staff or faculty is there for the students. But getting back to diversity, another way that we can look at diversity is the way that we look at the makeup of our campus. Largely, the STEM majors are pretty much ignored by other areas of campus. Not so much ignored, but the research that is done in Hurdy Hall is not known about as much. And so another way to be inclusive is to make sure that our STEM majors have a platform to present their research, and that our students in cohorts feel as though they're still included in the campus, that once you get into a cohort, you aren't a separate part of the campus, or once you start a research project, then you aren't a separate part of the campus. Thank you.
And now I would like to offer each candidate the opportunity to pose a question to the other candidate. Let's start with Mike.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so my question is this. As student body president, your time will be mostly fulfilled with meeting with faculty, staff, and administration. Are you prepared to delegate all of those issues out, like you said you might do earlier, instead of you yourself representing the student body like they probably elected you to do?
Okay, great question, thank you. So the thing is that I never said that I would delegate all of my duties out. I would love to work with faculty. The provost does an amazing job. Also with staff, I know that our leadership program is doing amazing things for the students, and I have already started working with Dr. Mock, but it does say that the president has the duty to appoint students as well. And I have not seen a lot of that in your administration. I'm very thankful for the committees that you have appointed me to, but largely it seems that serving on committees that are a baseline requirement for the president to serve on is doing the bare minimum. And I want to go a step beyond that and make sure that students are always included and that I am always representing the students and not considering myself higher than I am by saying that I'm a part of the administration.
Okay.
Amelia, you have a chance to ask Mike a question.
Yes, I have been wondering this all week, I guess for the past week and a half. Considering that your slogan was borrowed from another candidate, what does Day One Ready mean to you?
Yeah, Day One Ready means that I have the relationships with the administration that I can continue to work and progress this university from a student affairs perspective. It means that I have already met with many of the vice presidents, the president. We have a really strong working relationship. It means I understand many of the problems that are facing this university very well in detail. It means that I understand my role as the SGA president, as a member, as a student body member, as a member that works with the administration very closely. It means that I can continue to vouch for our students right when we start. It means that although there's a giant learning curve at the very beginning of the first semester as your SGA president, I won't have to face that again. It's very similar to the reason Juwan Jackson, the previous SGA president, used it, because he knew that there's such a large learning curve to being SGA president that I won't have to face that when coming into my second term.
Okay,
Thank you.
Well, we've certainly had an informative and spirited debate. We're going to take a 2-minute break, but we will be right back after that.
I think someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism. My friend's brother's son has autism. My neighbor's son has autism.
Would you guys like to continue the debate?
My son has autism.
I prefer closing than being
Autism is getting closer to home. Today, 1 in 68 children is diagnosed with autism. That's about a 30% increase in 2 years. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
In the small town of Elmira, New York, a boy was born into an all-American family. The odds of him achieving his dream in the fashion industry? 1 in 23 million. The odds of having a child diagnosed with autism? 1 in 68. I am Tommy Hilfiger, and my family is affected by autism. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Listen now, can you hear the bluebirds? Oh, look up now, can you feel the sun? Whoa, 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 whoa. Can you feel the sun?
Welcome back to this special edition of GC 360. I want to thank the candidates for taking the time to meet and address issues of concern to the voters of Georgia College. I want to wrap up with one last question before we close. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer this final question. If not elected, what are your plans to serve Georgia College? And Amelia, we'll start with you.
Yes. One thing that I would really like to do is get more involved with our leadership program. It's something that is expanding on Georgia College. And so Dr. Mock has been doing a great job. This is his first year here. He wants to expand the Emerging Leaders program, and I would love to serve as a peer mentor, as well as continuing to advocate for parts of my platform. Just because I won't be student government president doesn't mean that things such as independent TED Talks can't come to campus, or advocation for cohorts. I would still love to be involved with student government. I don't think that piece of me will ever leave. But yeah, I look forward to continuing to serve my campus, getting more involved with Project Brave, and continuing those initiatives that I've started.
Mike, what about you?
Great, yeah. So I think, I have a couple things that I really want to continue to work on. One is Model United Nations, which I'm part of, and I really do love that academic setting. So hopefully to continue to develop that program. So that's one thing I'll work on. Two, I really want to continue to push for President Dorman's initiative, which is a debate society at Georgia College, not yet created, and something in the works. And so I want to continue to develop that program so it's long withstanding. I came here at Georgia College because it's a small liberal arts school, and that's really what I want to continue to push to do. So I want to help continue to develop that. And lastly, if Amelia would let me, if I lose, she'll win. Help her in any way she can, in any advising role, and in any way there. I would love to help her in that regard. So just to advise and help her there. Yeah?
Well, thank you guys. Well, awesome. Thank you both again for your answers and time. Voting opens at midnight tonight, so we hope this presidential debate will help you decide whether to give current SGA President Mike a second term or elect Amelia Lord in his place. GC 360 will post the debate on our website, gc360news.com, and on all of our social media platforms. For GC 360, I'm Stephen Walters. Guys, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, that was great. That was awesome.
Great
So
to see
what
you.
else did you eat for lunch?
What
did you
else?
eat for lunch?
Oh man, that's That's a good question. quickly had a hamburger,
Yeah.
honestly.
Oh, really? From where?
Microwave.